struggling. So basically now Eric Latiff goes to Nation FM. Remember, Nation FM had shut down in 2016, but now reopened in 2021. They had rebranded from Easy FM to Nation FM, and that shows there is a big problem with mainstream media. Look at the Standard Media Group. The employees are going for months without pay, basically because that recalibration, the Moi family, I think, are the majority shareholders. So that shows in Kenya, if you are not in politics, then you go bankrupt. So basically, Eric Latiff pioneered the talk show radio. They call the morning show that is the situation room. They call the morning show the situation room, and that's how they were able to pioneer it in Kenya. So basically, I would say that Eric Latiff's move to Spice FM, to Nation FM, that's urban radio is dying. Is urban radio dying? So remember, in Kenya, you just have to talk about politics or celebrities, nothing in between, nothing works in Kenya. If you talk about any other things, you don't get an audience. That's why you have a situation room of Eric Latiff was really some breath of fresh air. So a lot of middle class Kenyans listened to the morning FM station, and I think they did well. So I think the future of urban radio in Kenya is in podcasting, is in commentating, because news has already been broken on social media. We get our news on social media, we get it on X. There are all sorts of experts on X to analyze the issues. There are all sorts of experts on Facebook. There are all sorts of experts on uh, on YouTube. So that's where we get our news. But then, of course, you have Eric Latiff now leaving all that. He's going to Nation FM to try and bring back the station. So basically, the other two hosts, and Do Oko and City Muga, are going over to take over. But it was Eric Latiff that was the real steer of that morning show. So of course, remember also Nation Media Group is trying to diversify away from newspapers. Remember, newspaper business is also dying. Basically, a lot of young people are not buying newspapers anymore. They're reading it online, and they want it free. They're not willing to pay. So you have these newspapers. You have Nation now. I think it charges about 450 shillings per month to access news on the Nation website. So basically, that shows you mainstream media is changing, and I think that's where the future is going to be. And it's not just a Kenyan situation. This is a situation the world over. This is why I would say that basically the situation the world over is that mainstream media is collapsing. Even CNN, it had an audience of 2 million viewers per prime time, but of course, right now it has an audience of only 500,000. Of course, Fox News has 2 million viewers, because Fox News, opinion and news are the same. The line between opinion and news is not differentiated as in the other stations. So basically, you have a lot of media houses, mainstream media houses are struggling. So basically, you have that, and of course, even for I think commentating is the way American media is adapted. Maybe that's just talk radio. We need talk radio because you can't basically stream music online, and so what makes the difference? It's talk radio, and that is why it needs to be resuscitated. That's how talk radio has to be resuscitated. That's how talk radio is going to emerge from the silence. This is why I say that basically Eric Latiff moving over to Nation FM, that's a blow. And remember, the former Nation Media Group CEO, Lenas Gitari, said that, and now media should be selling insights. That's what Lenas Gitari said, that the media should be selling insights because the media is broken. Why not have 8 opinion columnists, for instance? Why have just 2? I think for most media houses, weekdays they have 2 opinion columnists, and I think the upper one is taken by international columnists, and then local ones get the bottom one. So why not have 8 opinion columnists and maybe even have an opinion column on page 1? So Eric Latiff, of course, I just think since Caroline Mtoko came off from KISS 100, Urban Radio has been struggling, because now I think it is Maina Kageni and Mwalimu Kingangi that are ruling the airways on Urban Radio. But those people want to talk about relationships. What about important stuff of the day? What about deep issues of the day? I just think that maybe Urban Radio has to return and be able to talk about the deep issues of the day. That's how we will be able to know, we will be able to get, and there are so many things happening in Kenya, in Africa. That is why we need to tell our own stories. How the talk radio, I think talk radio is the future, and I think a lot of what Eric Latiff is doing is going to be talk radio. So I don't think Space FM should have left it at 10 a.m. They should have continued that to be a 24-hour talk radio. I think they should have continued it with other talk radio presenters so that then they could have a niche. But basically, then pay comes in and the employees are not paid so well. So what do you do when the employees are not paid so well? So basically, you struggle and see to it that basically all the things are there. So that's it about Eric Latiff leaving Spice FM for Nation FM, and it's not just that. I think you have even in the US, new media is really coming up. Of course, on 19th of January, TikTok will be banned in the US on the 19th of January. TikTok will be banned in the US, and so that will spell perilous times for urban media in Kenya. TikTok will, in Africa, in America, basically, TikTok will be banned on 19th January in the US, and so that means that and maybe they're accusing TikTok of spying, and they say the parent company of TikTok, that is ByteDance, it is a Chinese company, and so they are accusing ByteDance of that is basically stealing US users' information and relaying it to the Chinese Communist Party. So that's something that we are going to be watching closely. I think it is something that we need to be able to address, of course, whether Chinese companies are but spies for the Chinese Communist Party. And of course, Donald Trump, at first, he wanted to delay the ban of at first he was for the banning of TikTok, that is during his first term presidency. But right now, the shoe is firmly on the other foot, and Donald Trump said he will revisit the issue. He got a lot of young voters, or he even has a TikTok account. Donald Trump got a lot of younger millennials, younger Gen Zs. He got them on the social media platform. So that basically means that whatever will happen now is just about basically mainstream media going off. This is why I say we need to be able to have we need to be able to discuss the future of urban media in Africa, in Kenya. Basically, rural media is not struggling. You have the likes of Radio Citizen, the likes of Radio Jumbo, the likes of Millennium FM, Radio Maisha. They're not struggling because rural folk cannot afford internet to stream live. So basically, they still tune into those stations. But I think urban radio is really struggling. This is why then it is essential that that it diversifies and becomes talk radio. I think now that it should be the line that Eric Latiff should be taking. That is of urban, and that is becoming urban talk radio. And I think that's the future of media. Look at how they are trying to monetize people. Look at they tried with online ads, but that is paltry because a full page ad, I think, on Nation newspaper costs about 500,000 shillings. And that's just about what they could get maybe in a month. I think a sales professional at Nation used to clock 40 million every week. That was how much there was advertising in national newspaper, 40 million shillings. But then right now, a lot of that has gone online. You have the blogger and the NCA for killer lecturer Robert Alai saying that basically we should ban we should ban local businesses from advertising on these social media platforms. Remember, these social media platforms have taken classified advertising, and classified advertising was really the lifeline of a newspaper. So now, even in America, the death of local news is because of classified advertising going online. So basically, they could charge you as low as $1 per day. So basically, that means then that is now gone, and they have to charge you based on and they have to charge you based on maybe other factors. So that's it. Urban media is going out of the way, and I think making sense. And I think the irony is that it is a niche media in business and finance that are making headways in pulling in subscribers. Look at Wall Street Journal. It is the most highly subscribed newspaper in the world. That is the Wall Street Journal. But of course, it is for business stories. Now, I think in Kenya, maybe Business Daily is the one that is going to take over. I think it is going to a lot of users are going to subscribe on Business Daily, and I think that is how people at least they offer people, maybe they offer their audience maybe stories, exclusive stories on business and finance and stock market. So that's about Eric Latiff leaving Space FM for for Nation FM. Of course, now he will be competing with Jeff Koinange, but of course, Jeff Koinange is a platform on his own. He doesn't even rely on, I think, he doesn't even rely on Hot 96. Jeff Koinange is a platform on his own. Then, of course, another story that I'll be looking at is KCSE results were announced. So I think about 25% of the students got grade C plus, and the education minister Joseph Bigambo said they will not raise the entry grade to university. It will remain a C plus. So that will mean now the number of admitted students will move in from 200,000 to 246,000. So that shows you that basically and that shows you that the entry grade to university will be increased to that is to 200 the number of students that qualify to go to university will increase to 246,000. So what are you doing? Do we have jobs for these people after they leave campus? Do we have jobs for these people after they leave college? Why are we not creating enough jobs? And the technical institutes were all converted to university so that then you could admit all these 246,000 students. So they are all going to university. What happened to the technical institutes? Maybe to learn skills such as welding, plumbing, carpentry, masonry. These skills no one wants to learn. They are deemed as maybe lesser colleges, lesser technical institutions. I think we need to address the issue of vocational colleges because not everyone will get a white collar job. Maybe that's what we will need to do. Not everyone will get a white collar jobs. I think you heard Rigathi Gachagua in graduation of a JKU at university saying that basically there are no jobs and they should be electricians, they should be plumbers. I think in a graduation ceremony, why have we been kicking the can of development down the road? Why have we been kicking the can of development down the road? We are not creating enough clean, decent, rewarding jobs for these people, and I think that's what it needs to be. So basically, we are just going to train people. I think Kenya now is like Nigeria, where doctors are bus drivers, engineers are selling eggs on the streets. That's how bad the job situation in the country right now. To get a job, really, you just have to have enough connections so that you can get a job. And I think this is going to be perilous times for Kenyans. That is, you need connections because we are not creating enough clean, decent yarding jobs, and I think that's why it's going to be a tough nut to crack. So they're trying to export to try the international labor market. That's what the labor secretary, that is Alfred Mutua, is doing. So basically, we are sending our skilled people to go to Saudi Arabia, to go to Qatar, but we've heard horror stories of Kenyans, Africans going to these countries, horror stories basically being mistreated, some of them coming back in coffins because they are mishandled by their employers. So what are we going to do? So we want to join the likes of Philippines. Philippines, I think, is a country that is known for using its labor as a strategic resource. There are a lot of Philippines in Dubai, in Saudi Arabia, everywhere. They are using a lot of Philippine nannies in Hong Kong. So the Philippines is a country that has really used exports labor basically as a key economic activity. So Kenyans are going to tap into that, but maybe we could start. What if we provided what if we provided, that is, what if we provided maybe startup capital to aspiring entrepreneurs in Kenya. What if we provided startup capital? I just think we would be able to harness more. We need to be able to replicate Silicon Valley. We need startups to be formed, and I think that's why government has to create an enabling environment for people to be able to for businesses to flourish, because the key to prosperity is not in overtaxation. You cannot tax your way to prosperity, but the Ruto administration basically thinks they can't tax their way to prosperity. Look at the companies shutting down. So the Ruto administration is basically saying that is commissioning a report on why businesses are leaving Kenya, but that is basically uh, a step too late, because these businesses, look at Cadbury, it left, it abandoned its Cadbury chocolate, it no longer does its manufacturing in Kenya, so they have retained a small marketing office. Only the marketing will be done only the marketing will be done in Kenya, so they have outsourced it to South Africa. So basically, now the manufacturing will be done in South Africa. So the Kenyan outfit has been reduced to just a paltry marketing office, and these are jobs that are being lost. Engineers, technicians have no longer jobs. So why are businesses shutting down in Kenya? They're not creating the right kind of environment. Why are businesses? I think it just is, if you start a factory, then basically they see it as an opportunity to breathe dry. So this is something that should change. This is something that we really need to look at. Why are companies leaving? I think the issue is to increase the tax bracket, not to overtax the already minute lots. The issue is to increase the tax bracket, and that is by maybe even providing tax relief to businesses. Maybe for the first 3 years, say you will not pay any taxes until you become stable. That's how to attract investment from all over the world. But I think what are the economic advisors of the Ruto administration really saying? So basically, the KCSE stars, also the other topic, the KCSE stars have set their eyes on living for overseas jobs. So I think basically you have the best and brightest Kenyans, Africans usually go and study overseas. So you have in 1989, you had Naim Samnake from Malance High School going to Australia. He is now a doctor in Australia. You can have Fred Were in 1990 from Starehe, went to US, is now a doctor. 1991, you had the likes of Humphrey Watanga going to Harvard. In 1992, you had Gilbert Tengeta from Mango High School going to US University of California, South California. Then, of course, is now an engineer in the US. Then in 1993, you had Washeni Kanyaro from Manas going to Harvard. 1994, you had Kirimania Mrizi from Manas going to MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. 1996, you had Nathaniel Choge going to Harvard. In 1997, you had Mwashuma Nyata from Alliance High School going to Harvard. Now he's a financial consultant in America. In 1998, you had Timothy Zairu going to Harvard. Is now a software programmer in in the US at Microsoft. He was one of the Microsoft millionaires. 1999, you had Samuel Gikandi going over to that is MIT, and now of course he came back. He worked at Morgan Stanley in Hong Kong, came back. He's now founded Africa Stocking and SMS Pearl Company, and is a board member of Stanbic Bank. In 2000, you had Darcy Champanti from Mango High School going to getting a full scholarship to University of Adelaide, Australia, and now of course he has a PhD, or maybe he dropped out, but he worked in the Apogee defense systems. In 2001, you had Amit Monga from Starehe going to McGill University, and of course he is now a financial consultant there. In 2002, the first one to study in Kenya, He is from Paul Bundi is from, I think, that is Kenya High School. He went to the University of Nairobi to pursue medicine. So the only one in that role. Then in 2005, you had James Kandiero teach from Moi High School, Kabara, going to MIT. Is now an engineer at Google. And then, of course, in 2006, you had one of the top students, that is Herman Mutiso from Alliance High School, going to MIT. Of course, he had gotten scholarships from both MIT and Harvard, but chose MIT, and of course, the following year, Harvard did not pick a student from Alliance, and it had to take the principal of Alliance High School, Christopher Kaimba, to go all the way to Harvard to reassure in Cambridge, Massachusetts, USA, to assure the Harvard admission officials that Alliance High School students prefer Harvard to any other university in the world. So you can see how very much our brains go on to study. They get lucrative jobs. So basically, our education budgets are about supplements to our education budgets are but supplements to the US higher education system. They get our brains so cheaply. So you have KCSE stars, home for stars, setting their eyes on US colleges. So basically, you have the Nigerian American Philip Emeagwali, who co-invented the supercomputer after modeling it after the bee honeycomb. You have Philip Emeagwali saying Africa would still be poor even if $1 trillion was poured into it, because it has no intrinsic value. All the top brains have left. So that's it. That is brain drain. And then another issue I looked at is Ghana swears in John Mahama as incoming president. So I think he is the first African president to be elected to occupy presidency on 2 non-consecutive terms. So John Mahama becomes the first African president to occupy the presidency after 2 non-consecutive terms. So basically, but I think elections are not enough. Ghana is under deficit. It is a stable democracy, but why is it not translating to money in people's pockets? We need to be doing economic growth. We cannot be having elections simply for the face of it. What Africa has is plural democracy, not liberal democracy. So basically, you have our elections really are tribal animosities, one tribe versus another tribe. We organize our elections around tribe, not on the deep issues of the day, not on ideology, not on what issues we stand for. Which African president ever presents an infrastructure plan, a jobs plan, a healthcare plan? So it is about all about the issues that we have. So basically, I just think this time I think we need to do elections. We just need to have two in Africa, maybe a left of center party that's about equality of opportunity, where a left of center party that's about equality of opportunity, where you bring everyone to the same starting lineup, maybe what we call socialist party, and a right of center party, party of business, party of individual dynamism, where you empower businesses so that the individual creative genius can flourish. The tragedy we have here in Africa is that our richest people are billionaires, not the creative geniuses. That's what the trouble we have. And even for the brains living, they just see a politician who barely made it to school, who does not produce anything. A politician who does not produce any product or service basically is a billionaire because of a stealing. And then they watch their cousin who had all the papers, had all the brains and tarmacking, and then they decide to leave the country. So basically, how that's just how these elections are organized around tribes. That's why then they fail to make it. Then basically, I will also talk about in American political parlance. So Donald Trump becomes the first American president to be convicted. So he was given a non-custodial sentence. So basically, Donald Trump becomes the first convicted felon to be elected American president. Of course, many people say that they voted for Donald Trump because he seems to be strong on the economy. That's what Donald Trump says. He seems to be strong on the economy, and then Kamala Harris seems to be strong on preserving democracy. That's what she ran on, that is preserving democracy. But then voters tied her to the failed Biden policies because of inflation. Remember, voters attribute inflation to voters attribute wage increase to as a result of their own efforts, but then they admit they attribute high cost of living inflation to a failure by the president. So basically, they punish President Biden, and then of course they said that the voter has to be that is they punish President Biden, basically saying that really that his inflation is what may be printing money incessantly. Remember, America prints just money, and maybe this is something you have to address. When America has a debt, it simply prints money out of thin air. And I think President Kagame said that when Rwandan President Paul Kagame said when Africa wants to pay its debt, it has to pay through commodities, through resources, through gold, through copper, through cotton. But when the developed US wants to has a money shortage, it just simply prints money out of thin air. And that's why Donald Trump says that if the United States does not, if the dollar is not the world's reserve currency, America could be a house built on cards. So you can imagine right now, America has a debt of over $35 trillion. That's about it pays now. It spends more on interest on loan repayments than it does on the military. Remember, America